Another video. I haven't recorded in a long time, but I do use when I want. And like when I feel like it. It's not like a schedule or anything, but um so today we're gonna go over how to draw joints and hands, which is including like joints include hands as well as it's funny how these have ears. How to like muscle like a little bit of muscles. So like of course you don't need to memorize a bone chart to do this, but you do need to know where things move, what kind of how like I'll explain it. But so okay. First thing we're gonna do our program and go over 3 types of joints. So there are the third one's not really a joint, but so the first one is an angle joint. It's like that's a right angle from math. So an angle joint can't move past this 180 degrees. So like your elbows and your knees. Some people can move these farther. These also include your fingers. And like your hand has a lot of different joints I'll go over later. But so like your elbow and your knees, your toes, fingers, and stuff like that. So these can only move. That's a really bad hand. Only move that way. Maybe they'll move to pick up something, and the farthest they can go is down and into themselves. But they cannot move. Like they can't go. They can't bend like this. It's not humanly possible. So, second type of joint is ball joint. So these include hips, your shoulder, your ankles, wrists. So these can kind of move anywhere. They can even go down, but they can't go into themselves. This is kind of your neck too. Like you can rotate it, but it's not like super flexible. Like you can't rotate your hips in certain directions, but it's basic. So basic joint. I can move. It's the leg. It's probably the leg. I can move up. I can move down. I can move like up, make it as a knee. Stuff like that. And like your heel. The third joint isn't really a joint. It's more like muscles. So like think about your nose. It can't really move by itself, but it moves with other muscles. Like you can move your nose muscles. When you talk, it moves. They're kind of stationary. Stuff like the kind of the rest of your bones. Also like your spine, it can kind of move in different ways, but like don't break it, stuff like that. That's kind of it for joints. But so the main thing, so then I'll move on to hands. But people think hands are complicated, and they are. But I have tricks. So hands are a lot of things. So most people draw them like a square and these sausage fingers, which like I'm just gonna draw 3 fingers because which is fine because that's what you see when you hand. But in reality, there are a lot more tendons in between these areas. They're your knuckles. This muscle can contract, and it makes these muscles move. Like there's lots of different parts to a hand. So what I do is draw everything in ligaments rather than a rectangle. So the thumb usually can kind of bend like this, and it's one part. Like this is the fleshy palms. That's where I usually go off of, so I can curve inward. And I'm looking at my finger as I do this. There's 3 different parts, and the most difference, like you can't really define these parts other than if you're bending them. Like if you're bending them, of course you're gonna get different. But this doesn't look, like. And then we have like the middle section of the hand, which is like this shape. So I like to go by, like, when you put a palm print, like you put in paint, put on the ground, what parts do you see? That's what I do. And then when your hand bends, for example, let's say the thumb is still in the same place. So let's just make it like that. But I'm actually doing, so this is maybe a finger. But the thing I want to go over is how when you move this muscle right here, there's another finger, this moves. So you have this whole thing, and maybe like it's you don't it's not like a lump, it's not like a paw pad, but you'll see like shadows here, and then this skin stretches. So this pinky can bend. I forgot the third finger. Oh well. And a lot of these I just draw in parts. Like that's how fingers work. They are like, they're not ball jointed, but they are ankle jointed. But like if I move this finger, you see, switch color here. There's this skin, there's this skin, there's this, like all these muscles move. It's not just taking this and then doing this. Like, you know what I mean? You could do, I just think it's useful to draw these right here, because then you can shade, maybe you're shading right here. You know, like your hand's fleshy. It's not just like a doll. So that's what I like to do, honestly. And a lot of it you don't have to feel guilty about using reference. Like bend your hand and mirror if you need to. If you draw with right hand and you want to draw right hand, that's honestly like, because like this, it's you know. You can also, I'm looking at my left hand right now, but again, a lot of art is experience. Like I said, tutorials don't make or break you. Your practice does. It's just important, I think, just to kind of reimagine how you think about fingers. And like, you know, like when you feel your hand, there are 4 separate bumps. Like it's not, you know, that's what I think of it as. These hands are actually pretty good. I like them. So that's hands. And of course, your wrist is a ball joint, so you can move it in whatever direction you want. You don't need to focus on the skin, but the basic shape. The first finger usually overlaps all of the rest, think of it like a crab claw. So it's a bad crab claw, but think about like this finger and this finger, so you can draw them in that order. And your thumb usually goes out like this. But anyway, so move on to normal joints. So like you said, that's an angle joint, so fingers are an angle joint. But let's go for other angle joints. So here's like the leg. Let's say a dragon. So here's like the meat of the calf. Here's the ankle. Here's the toes. So this is the knee right here. Although farthest it can go, even if it's straight out, there's going to be a little divot here because it's a knee, it's a muscle. And then of course it can go back into itself and create the little overlap here. The reason I do this is for also fingers. These are basically fingers. Like, think about this. So you have the meat of the finger, which is the part that connects to your palm. You have the middle section of the finger, and like your tips aren't really an ankle. I mean, they're not as flexible as an ankle, but they are still like, you know. So I can move this other things in the way. Let's erase that. But I like to just think of it. It's like another ankle. It's like any other ankle joint. Like, I mean, yeah, any other angle joint. It looks like a leg. So maybe we can go over this and like curve in a little bit. Still too thick. But like that's a finger. Like, so they're like the same thing, you know? And of course you have skin, you have a knuckle here. That's just the basic concept of what I wanted to show you today. Hands are not that hard, neither are a lot of other joints. Your elbows are pretty standard. Like I said, they can only move in 180. They can't go 360 degrees. I hope they can't. And like it's pretty simple. You know, as you flex, maybe if you flex your ankle, you see like a tendon move. But unless you're like, you know, you don't have to observe, you know, just do studies on your own time. This is more of a simple tutorial. I'm not teaching you like it's you're getting a PhD in anatomy, but it's kind of basics. You don't have to draw another tip. You don't have to draw every detail, but I like to draw like little lines right here because it's a stylistic thing. I also do on the nose. You know, like people do that. That's kind of it, but they're not as hard as you think they are. And in fact, you might go into perspective later, but they are not. You know, they're not difficult. It's like your fingers are all meaty legs, meaty thighs. Look at this. So that's kind of my tutorial. I hope it wasn't too complicated. It's just kind of a basic thing. I think it also includes practice. Also just thumbs always look like gourds. Like they never. I mean, they can be straight, but like the meaty part is always going to be that meaty. It's like a chicken drumstick, like that. And because this part, the palm, whatever, we learned that. But I hope y'all enjoyed. I'll be posting this. I don't know. But see you next time.